You've seen based on true events 1,000 times. Most of it is marketing. But Japan's greatest horror films, Ring, Audition, Confessions, are built on documented history. Real people, real crimes, real social failures that no one fixed. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just where these films came from, but why Japan keeps making horror about the same wound. We start in 1910 with a woman you've never heard of and a suicide that changed Japanese cinema forever. In 1998, director Hideo Nakata released Ring. It became the film that launched J-horror worldwide. The cursed videotape, the long-haired ghost, the well, you know the image. But Sadako, the ghost, was not invented from nothing. She is built on the documented story of a real woman named Chizuko Mifune. Chizuko Mifune was born in 1886 in Kumamoto Prefecture. In 1910, she was invited by Professor Tomokichi Fukurai of Tokyo Imperial University to demonstrate her claimed psychic abilities in a public experiment. According to historical records held at the Fukurai Memorial Museum, she correctly identified characters sealed inside metal pipes. Twice. The press didn't care. They declared her a fraud. They ridiculed her publicly. The media campaign against her was relentless. 4 months after the public experiment, on January 19, 1911, Chizuko Mifune ingested poison and died. She was 24 years old. Director Hideo Nakata confirmed this directly in a recorded interview. Mr. Takahashi suggested we use the idea of photographs, which is based on a real person named Mifune Chizuko, a paranormal. His words. In Ring, Sadako's mother, Shizuko, is a psychic who gains renown, is exploited by a male professor for a public demonstration, is destroyed by the press, and takes her own life. That is not a horror trope. That is the documented life of Chizuko Mifune, reconstructed in fiction, almost scene for scene. A real Sadako Takahashi also existed. Another psychic studied by Professor Fukurai, whose name Suzuki lifted directly for his ghost. What strikes me about this is how the cruelty is the same across a century. Chizuko wasn't a monster. She was a woman who became a public spectacle, and when the spectacle turned on her, no one protected her. But Ring only borrowed from history. The next film was written in direct response to a crime that Japan was still arguing about when filming began. Confessions, Kokuhaku, was 2010's highest-grossing Japanese film. It opens with a middle school teacher standing before her class and announcing that 2 of her students murdered her 4-year-old daughter. Since Japan's juvenile law protects underage offenders from adult prosecution, she has decided to enact her own revenge. Author Kanai Minato wrote Confessions while Japan was still debating one of its most disturbing crimes, the 1997 Kobe child murders. Between March and May 1997, in Kobe's Suma ward, a 14-year-old junior high school student attacked 5 elementary school children, killing 2. His last victim, 11-year-old Jun Hase, was found beheaded. His head was left at the school gate with a note taunting police. The killer identified himself in letters to the media as Seito Sakakibara. The shock was not only the crime, it was the sentence. Because the killer was 14, Japan's juvenile law, as it existed in 1997, meant he could not be tried as an adult. He was committed to a medical juvenile reformatory. He was fully released in January 2005. The case directly triggered a reform of the juvenile law in 2000. The minimum age for adult prosecution was lowered from 16 to 14. But for a significant faction of the Japanese public, that reform didn't feel like enough. The anger had nowhere to go. Kanai Minato, a former home economics teacher and housewife, wrote Confessions Between Household Chores, published in 2008. Academic analyses describe the novel as written amid public anxiety over youth violence in Japan, especially after the 1997 Kobe child murders. It won the Japanese Booksellers Award. The film made 3.85 billion yen. Here's what most Western coverage of Confessions misses. The film is not really about murder. It's a referendum on a legal system that Japan's public felt had failed them. The teacher doesn't go to police because the premise is police don't work. The audience understands that immediately because they lived through 1997. The film's central question, what do you do when the law cannot touch the guilty, is not a philosophical exercise for Japanese audiences. It is still a live political debate. Everything Confessions and Ring have in common, they're about society failing the powerless. The third film is about something more recent, and in some ways more frightening, because the system didn't fail. It doesn't exist yet. Takashi Miike's Audition works differently from the other 2 films. It is not adapted from a specific documented crime. It is adapted by a 1997 novel by Ryu Murakami, and its real-world inspiration is not a murder case. It's a social structure. The film's premise: a widowed man uses a fake film audition to screen women as potential new wives. He evaluates them like a casting director. He picks one, Asami. She is not what she appears. Critics, including the Los Angeles Times' Dennis Lim, have described Audition as being about the male fear of women and female sexuality. Director Miike confirmed in interviews that the film's women are blatantly objectified in the first half, only to have Asami redress this imbalance. His word, redress. 1997 in Japan. The economy had collapsed. The bubble had burst. The same social framework that had told men they were entitled to select a wife through economic criteria was now producing a backlash. Murakami wrote the novel the year of the Kobe child murders, the year Japan started asking, what kind of society did we build? Put yourself in the position of someone watching Audition in Japan in 1999. You are watching a man systematically objectify women, and you are watching the consequences arrive. You might feel two things at once: horror and recognition. Audition is not true crime. Let's be honest about that. It does not document a specific case. What it documents is a specific social contract and its cost. The horror is not fictional. The social structure it depicts is real. Now here's the part that most documentaries about J-horror completely ignores, and it changes how you understand all three films. Culturally, Japan has a concept called tatemae, the public face, versus hone, the private truth. Horror is one of the few places where hone is permitted to speak. The rage at systems that fail you can't be expressed in a press conference. It can be expressed in a horror film. Structurally, Japan's legal and institutional frameworks have historically moved slowly relative to social change. Horror films filled the gap. They put on trial what courts couldn't or wouldn't. Psychologically, the pressure to fit, what sociologists call docho atsurio, conformity pressure, means that when someone falls outside the group, the social machinery is brutal. J-horror is always about that brutality returning. This is where Western analysis of Japan often gets it wrong. We watch Ring and think, creepy ghost story. Japanese audiences watch Ring and think, a woman was destroyed by the press and the world paid for it. The horror is the indictment. The ghost is the invoice. And that's why the films don't end. Sadako keeps coming back. The juvenile killers are never truly punished. Asami is never explained. Because the social wounds that made them, those aren't resolved either. I want to show you what Japanese people themselves are saying about this, because it is not what you'd expect from the outside.
Confessions is scary because it put real fear into images. It's not ghosts.
Sadako in Ring is based on a real person. This has been said for a long time.
Did the law change after the Kobe case because of confessions? No. It was the other way around.
Ring is just a ghost story.
And this is an American Reddit comment from 2022. That gap between Japanese audiences who understand the cultural substrate and Western audiences who see surface horror is actually the subject of a serious academic conversation. And honestly, reading through these comments, what strikes me is that Japanese audiences don't seem proud of these films. They seem relieved, like something was finally said. So, here's the question that brought this whole video together. If these films are this honest about real wounds, what does it mean that Japan keeps watching them? Chizuko Mifune died in 1911 because the press destroyed her. A 14-year-old killed 2 children in 1997 and walked free at age 21. Yu Murakami looked at his country in 1997 and wrote a novel about what women are forced to become when men treat them as interchangeable. These are not stories about the supernatural. They are stories about very ordinary human cruelty, the kind that is documented, debated, and unresolved. Japan's horror doesn't scare you because of ghosts. It scares you because the ghost always has a reason to be angry, and the reason is always something humans did and didn't fix. So, here's what I want to ask you. When you've seen a horror film that felt genuinely disturbing, not just scary, but wrong, what was it actually about? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Every fact in this video has a citation linked in the description. That's the standard this channel holds. Stay skeptical, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.